Unnamed sources inside South Korea are claiming that the coming meeting between Moon Jae-in and DPRK Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un will result in the announcement to the end of the country's 68-year-long war. Now, the South Korean newspaper Munhwa Ilbo cited an unnamed South Korean intelligence official that said that the upcoming summit between Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un, which is scheduled for April 27th, which is the first time the leaders will be meeting face-to-face, may result in a peace announcement. The news follows weeks of planning between the South and North that kicked off a thawing of previously tense relations during the Winter Olympics. Since then, Kim Jong-un has expressed an unprecedented willingness to talk to the South, a desire to talk about the denuclearization with the U.S., and traveled outside his country for the first time since assuming power in 2011 to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping. Now, the United States has maintained a wait-and-see policy when it comes to the discussion between the two Koreas, and they have vowed to remain tough on North Korea by not letting up on the sanctions or any kind of military pressure. But the customary military exercises that usually take place in South Korea around this time have been delayed and toned down since last year. U.S. President Donald Trump has given his blessing to the upcoming inter-Korean peace talks seeking an end to the war on the Korean Peninsula. They do have my blessing to discuss the end of the war. People don't realize the Korean War has not ended. It's going on right now, and they are discussing an end to the war. They do have my blessing to discuss that. I think that's not just a symbol for the presidency of Donald Trump, but of the American position on the Korean conflict in general, as if somehow the South or the North required the permission of the United States or their agreement to discuss any kind of peace agreement. Any of the relations that exist between the North and the South are their business, and the United States should have no say in that. For Donald Trump to actually say something like this, it is not only in poor diplomatic wording, but it is a reflection of the nature of the relationship between South Korea and the United States. Essentially, the leadership of South Korea are puppet leaders under the control of the United States, and which is why the U.S. feels that they have the right to dictate to the North and the South whether or not they're allowed to discuss a possibility of ending a war that still technically exists between the two sides. Now, this is something that I think is really very interesting. If Kim Jong-un manages to sign an end to the Korean War between the two Koreas, there is now no longer any legal basis for the U.S. military to remain inside South Korea. It has always been claimed and used as a justification that since the war is technically not over and that it could resume again at any time, that this is why the U.S. had to keep tens of thousands of soldiers inside South Korea, violating not only their national sovereignty, but the popular will of the people inside the country as well. But if the war is now over, what is the excuse that the U.S. is going to use to keep forces inside the country? I'm sure it's going to use the development of nuclear weaponry as a justification for doing so, but that's something completely different. That's an issue between the United States and the U.S., not South Korea and North Korea, because now they're on peaceful terms. So this is how the narrative is going to change, because it will actually change this situation in general. Basically, without the war technically existing, the U.S. is now carrying out aggression for essentially their own purposes. They can't pretend this is about the war. So now when the U.S. ramps up some kind of hostility, they can't use South Korea as a shield in this case, well, as a justification for having these forces inside the country. Now they are literally just there because the United States wanted them to. Now that is the reason why they were always there, but that political and diplomatic cover will now no longer exist. So now when the U.S. takes more aggressive action against the DPRK, it will seem something that is wholly on the actions of the U.S. themselves, and not something they can try to pass off as something for the benefit of the region or for South Korea in general, because peace has been declared there, and it's really in a way that is now more obvious to observers, that the U.S. really is just interfering in the Korean affairs, and that this is about the United States wanting the government of the DPRK to be overthrown and replaced by a puppet government chosen by the United States.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.